IVM.
Going for parties is just so frustrating these days. I mean, your mom will make it a point to come and tell you how her friend's son has secured a house for her, and your wife will also find out that her sister's husband is taking her on a foreign holiday, while you're wondering why you're the only one who doesn't have a plan for the damn future. That's why I never sleep well during the festive time. Unless... www.hdfclife.com. Select. Done. You know what? I think I'll sleep rather well after all. Live calm. With HDFC Life, click to protect life. The Income Plus option offers life cover and steady income stream, so you're always ready for any expenses that life throws at you. Basically, this plan lets you plan your expenses like you plan your vacations. It's that simple. Visit hdfclife.com to know more and for terms and conditions.
Here's your smart fact of the day. Do you know something really interesting that's happened in the past few days? Social media giant Facebook has seen its daily active users drop for the first time in its 18-year history. It has from 1.930 billion in the previous quarter. In the last 3 months leading up to the end of December, it fell to 1.929 billion. In fact, the firm has also warned of slowing revenue growth and the rest of it, and it has not predicted a particularly good forecast for people who may own stock in Facebook. Welcome to Smarter with Sid, and today what I'm going to do is try and figure out what is the future ahead for Facebook when a small dip like this happens. Or is it really a small dip? What are we seeing? Let's go. Of course, Facebook's bad news will have ripple effects in the marketplace where, advertisers are also thinking of cutting spending. In fact, I've talked to an advertiser or two who have said that they're not getting too many results of Facebook of late, and that's why they're kind of cutting down spending on Facebook. Now, that is not very good news. The slide also happened in Meta share price. So it kind of dipped quite a bit. It slumped by more than 20% in after hours trading in New York. Now, obviously, even Mark Zuckerberg is saying this. I mean, he's always been upfront about a lot of things. He's been kind of silent about a lot of things, but he said that the firm's sales growth has been hurt as audiences, especially younger users, had left for rivals. Rivals like whom? Like TikTok and YouTube and the rest of it, right? So what are we saying? What does the future foretell for Facebook? If I take a quick poll, let's say, and ask you all of those guys who are listening to this, when was the last time you went on Facebook? It's quite likely that some of you might say, hey, I went there yesterday. And then I'll ask you, how much time did you spend on Facebook? And then you'll say, yeah, I spent this much time. I don't know really, but maybe a couple of minutes. And then I'll ask you, how much time did you spend on Facebook maybe 5 years back or 10 years back? And how many times did you go to Facebook? And today you say you go once a day, maybe twice a day. Not so sure anymore. And I'm not sure when was the last time I wished somebody on their birthday. I'm not sure when, I liked somebody's post. I kind of just consume content. Yeah, I used to contribute quite a bit. I used to, react quite a bit. I used to like things. I used to share things. I don't do a lot of those things anymore. And I'm wondering, what I do. Yes, I think when it's somebody's birthday, I get reminded of it. So it is useful. And I could go on. What am I actually saying? I'm saying that the use cases for Facebook over the past 5 to 10 years has been dramatically decreasing, at least from anecdotal user experience, including yours truly, right? People have certainly moved from Facebook to Instagram, and that's an old trope because, who wants to be at a party where your parents are? Obviously, you move to Instagram. Obviously, TikTok is something that is allowing people to consume content and be addicted to that content without, trying to think about what's on my mind, which is like very cognitively, it's quite an overload. Like I have to think what's on my mind, and TikTok is making you completely mindless and in a very nice and happy way. I'm not saying that. For all those listeners in India, obviously TikTok is banned, but Instagram does its reels action, and so does your Josh and Taka, and of course YouTube. YouTube with its foray into YouTube Shorts is also trying to corner some of that attention. And we seem to be moving as a society from content kind of sharing or content creation, even as a society, mind you, to content consumption on Facebook. Now, am I saying that content creators have reduced? No, we have seen a plethora of content creators increase, but they've increased in podcasting, they've increased in YouTube, they've increased on TikTok certainly, and Instagram. And yeah, so therefore there is a term called creators. But how many people are actually creators on Facebook? Well, of course, there are a few, but was Facebook really created for that? I mean, when was the last time Facebook actually made any change to the way in which it was being perceived? Well, there's good reason for that. Why, change something which isn't broken? Why fix something which isn't broken? But I remember that the last sort of few changes that Facebook had made and tried out was the Facebook marketplace, which didn't really take off. The second one was perhaps the reactions, instead of like you had, a lot of the other reactions that were added, and you could be a little more nuanced in the way in which you spoke about or communicated. But that's it really. I haven't seen too many things coming from Facebook in terms of any kind of innovation, any kind of enhancement of user experience. It seems to be going on. It's like this big army tank on the middle of the road, which is like rumbling along. It's 18 years old now. It's 18 years old. So if I have to look at how Facebook has resisted changing, it can be a good reason as to why Facebook is not working out. But is it the only reason? I mean, sure, Facebook can try changes to its algorithm to try and make content more addictive. I'm sure Facebook can try to innovate and create some new features and functions that allow communities over there to actually enjoy things. But I think that the reasons are going a little beyond all of these measures. Okay, I think there are two things that are extremely important for us to understand. Facebook became important for us because it connected us to people who we wanted in our lives but aren't. Okay, so it was not talking to strangers, or nor was it talking to people who are extremely close to us in real life. But it is people who have connected to us in the past or connected to us for a few moments. And we've kind of seen, hey, I would like to know what this person does and stuff like that. So if Facebook was all about weak bonds, not no bonds, that's strangers, and not strong bonds, that's real life, but weak bonds. And the weak bond theory is extremely useful because then you feel that you have a very enriched life whenever you go on Facebook, because you see people that you genuinely want to be connected to. Of course, there's a 5,000 people limit, but I think that the optimum user experience that I got off Facebook was when I was connected to about 500 odd people who actually I wanted to have in my life. But that's self-limiting, right? For Facebook's business model, which is based on user acquisition. So the moment I start getting more and more people who want to be my friend on Facebook, but I genuinely know them very less, but I add them on because I'm spurred on by having as many friends in the roster, I'm actually kind of decreasing the content experience that I'm getting. Now, you could very well try to curate the content that you're getting on Facebook by unfriending some or whatever, and Facebook has given a lot of options for that. Maybe its innovation has been in those areas, but the fact is that it has not been useful. When I go to Facebook today, I do not actually connect a lot of times to all the people out there. No offense to all those people, but I'm not getting the content that is riveting me to Facebook anymore. And that is because those weak bonds are not happening anymore. It's so strange. I say things like weak bonds, but I actually mean that those weak bonds made Facebook stronger. And the funny thing is, here's another thing. I think as a society, we are changing our equation to social media. I think we are getting more and more sophisticated. We understand how Facebook works. We understand the business model around it. We understand what kind of content we want to consume. And we've realized one thing, whether we are extroverts or introverts, we want to consume content which is done by creators who want to put content out there, not by your aunt or uncle or people who actually suck at making content. And we need to have the choice of, consuming content which is interesting. So I think the movement has been for a lot of us to move away from being content curators or creators towards actual content consumption. And Facebook is just not geared for that. I think Facebook is not geared for that in its current user experience. So what's the road ahead then for Facebook? I think Facebook has probably already seen the writing on the wall, which is why it's gone into Meta and it's gone into the metaverse. And, there's a lot of stuff happening out there. But besides that, I think the writing on the wall for Facebook is if it recognizes that it needs to be building some kind of things for promoting the weak bond again. How can it do that? Maybe the answer is counterintuitive. Reduce the number of friends, okay? Or do something different, Facebook. Otherwise, this is not a dip. This is a big, big dive that Facebook is taking in terms of its user base. I hope you like this diary entry or episode of Smarter with Sid. I keep saying diary entry because it was called the Traveling Professor's Diary. And it is, in a way, it is a diary of sort because it reflects what is going on in our landscape. And I like to connect to trends that are happening and try to connect from trend to timeless truth to make us smarter. So I think that is the evolution of the Traveling Professor's Diary to Smarter with Sid. And hey, you know what? You'll really help me and IVM if you like this podcast. You should rate this podcast. And you can like and rate this podcast. You can also click on the notification bell to get to know as soon as the latest episode, kind of drops. And do subscribe to the podcast. It'll again help me in a long way. Yeah. I feel that you can also connect with me on LinkedIn and on Instagram if you like the kind of content that I'm creating. And if you like this particular podcast, well, there's many more podcasts like these from IVM that you should just check out, man. They've got some great stuff going there. And until next time then, see you soon.
Hi, I'm Rohan Joshi, and on my podcast, the show about crypto, I've been having some pretty cool conversations with industry experts about what exactly cryptocurrency is and what makes it so exciting. If you haven't already, please check it out on the IVM Podcasts Network. Now, a quick shout out to my fellow crypto heads. We've got a listener survey going on, which will take not more than 10 minutes of your time to fill out. So please check the link in the description and help me out by filling it up. Don't forget to tune into a show about crypto on the IVM app and wherever you get your podcasts from.
Hey everybody, it's been another great week on the IVM Podcast Network. On Think Fast, Namit Potnis, a good friend of mine, founder of Drumworks, joins Varun and Suchita. He talks about all things NFT and shares a few tips on investing. On Paisaveza, Anupam and Devina Mehra, founder at First Global, discuss the outlook for the Indian equity market in 2022. On the Filter Coffee podcast, Karthik talks to author Rashna Bisht about her book, 1971 Charge of the Gorkhas. On All Things Policy, the Takshashila folk contemplate the need for Indian health services in current times. And on Say No to Drama, Chetna pulls down the curtain around nostalgia and teaches us how to live in the present. Do follow us on social media. We're IVM Podcast on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, and LinkedIn. Also, please do tell a friend. It really does help us when you spread the word about our podcast. And I'd also like to ask you if you could rate or recommend wherever you listen to our podcast. And speaking of where you listen to this show, if you're on an Android phone, do check out our new Android app. We have a brand new app with a brand new listening experience. Definitely check it out. I think you will enjoy it. And finally, we'd like to thank our sponsors this week, Bank of Baroda and CoinSwitch Kuber. Thank you so much for making this possible.